Libra Ascendant, Libra Rising. This is your November 2020 video. Your frequencies. We're going to actually talk about the October new moon, full moon, and then we're going to go into November. The October energies are very, very powerful. All those big planets standing still. And they're in Earth. Our tangible world is changing. Right? It was sitting still, it was stuck, and all of a sudden we see forward momentum, we see movement. So all your earth energies are going to be affected. Your fourth house, which is home. The next is in your eighth house. Your eighth house is all about your significant, deep relationships, bonded relationships, emotionally shared values. And shared values sometimes involve past lifetimes, emotions, and connections with those that we've had from other times in our life, but also other lifetimes. Rest of your energy, we've got Virgo over there in the 12th. So that's number 4, number 8, 10, and 2, number 12 houses, right? So your fourth, these are all spiritual houses. The fourth house is the water house of Cancer energy. The 8th house is the water house of Scorpio. And the 12th house is the water house of Piscean energy. It's your material and your non-material mixed together. The feeling, it's the emotion, empathy, it's the understanding, the spirituality, deep bonds, deep energetic bonds. It's the emotional security, all bound together. They're all wound up, they're all tethered with material things, with material objects. So fourth house, material things give you emotional security because you've got Capricorn there. 8th house, material things, other people's value, what other people value. Somehow, other people's values, you value what they have. You see what someone has and you're like, oh, wow, the grass always looks greener on the other side with Taurus in the 8th house because it makes it feel as though somebody else has something you don't have, but it's something that you value. You have similar values. Therefore, it just looks like, well, I want that. Why can't I have that? I want that. 12th house. 12th house energy is Virgo energy. Virgo is all about, I know how to do something and seeing the steps of how to get there. But it's in the watery 12th house. The watery 12th house is that Piscean thing. Pisces has the ability to dissolve things, right? And so anybody who's got Virgo in their 12th house, if Pisces has the ability to dissolve and your Virgo energy has to do with your health, and you think about that, it's all about the internal stuff. It's all about the digestion. We've got your earth energies, right? We've got your Capricorn energy in your home. We've got Pluto, we've got Saturn, we've got Jupiter standing still. Somehow, something at home becomes more solidified. Something at home becomes more sturdy, more stable, it just feels more like the ability for my long-term emotional security is it's like you can see it. You can almost see it happening. Like you can actually connect some of those dots because those planets aren't retrograding any longer. They are standing still and they're going to be moving forward. And this is all about tangible securities, my income, my work, my financial securities. This is all about my goals. This is all about my ambitions. Earth energy is our tangible world. It's what we can see is literally our work. How hard we work at something. The movement, right? The movement of these bigger planets, of Saturn, of Jupiter, of Pluto, the movement of them standing still and then going direct. It's like something may click into place. Something that may have been held back, something that may have been delayed, something that may have just been, like it was a forever thing. Like I could never just get home to be a certain way. It was always a struggle to feel emotionally secure in the home because it was always dependent on these material things that were not always a guarantee. And there was, it messed with all this here. But now it's as though there's a change in that. Like, it's almost like, oh my gosh, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I can see this. And it makes sense, right? Like that Virgo in the 12th and the Neptune dissolving its ability to see. It's like there's going to be a change in that because in your tangible reality, there's so much happening, right? There's so much power in those tangible houses, in your earth houses. And it's a time of momentum, of movement, of wishing, of intention. So this brings me to, there's a new moon in Libra, your sign Libra, and this has to do with yourself because it's in your first house. It's your relationship with yourself. It's Venus ruled. So Venus is all about value and love. This is you saying, I value me now. I see value in myself. I see all the stuff I've been through. I see all the adversity I've overcome. I see all the challenges, changes that I've been faced with. I am seeing more clearly how I was able to adapt, to change, how relating with people has gone through a major change. This thing that I was really very dependent on because it's very important to me. It adds to my emotional stability. It adds to my fun factor. It adds to my emotional security. I've had to change that. In 2020, there was no more of this relating and meeting face-to-face, one-on-one. And so we've had to go without that and learn how to adapt. How do I connect in with others? What other avenues can I take? And at this time, it's a new moon saying, if you haven't done that, you're going to learn that. You're going to implement that. Recognizing all that you've learned thus far, recognizing that you learning how to be the diplomat, how to reach out to others by being able to go there, but not being able to physically go there because Mars, right, in Aries, in retrograde, Mars is frustrated because it can't go out and touch someone. It can't go and just meet up with someone. It can't go and reach out and hug someone. Mars in the 7th house, which is where your Aries energy is being told, you got to squash that for right now. We can't do that right now. And so there's this frustration, but there's also for many, this is the house of one-on-one consultations. This is the house of, I have to sit down and talk with somebody, like we meet one-on-one. And there's all this frustration with the Mars and the activity. There's all this squaring going on, right? It's the home squaring that ability, but then we also have this, it's a big T-square. So it's been very frustrating. You have been learning how to relate, how to change the way you relate, and you've done it. You're still tweaking it, but for the most part, you've adapted. You've adapted and you're moving on. It's a recognition of all you've accomplished and seeing how you have the ability to not only be this beautiful diplomat where you can engage with lots of different personalities professionally and at home, socially, but at the same time, you recognizing that you are this great diplomat and seeing the value in that, especially during 2020, seeing the value of you being able to adjust, being able to secure an income, to make an income, because on your ability to talk, based on your ability to relate, to communicate, to teach, to connect in with somebody one-on-one, your ability to still be able to do it even though you couldn't meet face to face. And I'm saying all this because your 3rd house, you have Sagittarius energy in your 3rd house. And that's where the South Node is. And everything that Sagittarian energy used to do, the way it used to relate and communicate, it can't do anymore. It's all going away. It's changing. It's beliefs about the way of talking. It's belief about teaching, because that's the South Node energy. It's leaving. It's being transformed. It's dissolving. But something new is emerging, and that is your North Node. Your Gemini, your Sagittarius energy in your 3rd is graduating, and it's going from the 3rd house up to the 9th house. The 9th house is further education, continuing education, higher education. And there's Gemini energy there, and that's where your Gemini sits. And that brings me to the next beautiful thing. This Gemini energy is where the North Node is. And we have an eclipse coming, and this is in your 9th house. Your 9th house is traveling far distances, right? You have Gemini there, which means using social media. It's the ability to connect in with neighbors, ability to connect in with those in your digital community, because the 9th house is foreigners, foreign lands. Having Gemini energy there, Gemini used to be, radio, newspaper, right? But media has changed, right? It's Facebook, it's internet, so there's lots of different ways, that we can relate now. There's different social platforms, but also educational social platforms. That's what Gemini, the teacher, in the 9th house placement of Sagittarian energy, continuing education, higher up education. This is the North Node, which means this is where the future is headed. your future, where your future is headed. So if you know enough about astrology to know that you don't know enough about astrology and you want me to take a look at your chart, comment your birth digits below and I'll help you out. But we're also going to then dip into understanding that with that full moon and the elevation of emotions, it's a great time to release, but knowing that the best way to handle energy in that full moon is to go to its opposite energy, which is Scorpio, okay, and Plutonian, right? Plutonian energy, which is altruistic. If you handle that energy, because it's very powerful, if I look for you, your Scorpio energy is in your second house of money. And so what that would mean is if you go to the other side, say you get money. Here's an example. Say you come into some money, okay? There's a beautiful thing, handling something altruistically means you're going to do something and expect nothing in return. You're doing something for another. And it's just simply to give, right? It's just simply, I'm doing this for you and I expect nothing in return. And it's very beautiful. It's a really wonderful way to handle that full moon energy of elevated emotions. I wanted to give you a heads up for November 14th. Depending upon where you live in the world, remember, November 14th, new moon is at 23 degrees, okay? 23 degrees in Scorpio. So you hear me talking about common themes, right? We had Venus energy in the new moon in Libra, and then we had Taurus energy, which was Venus ruled. And now we have November 14th at 11:07 p.m., Central Standard Time, we have a new moon in Scorpio energy. All right. And I just got done talking about how to handle that full moon Scorpio energy, right? I know this is confusing, so just rewind it and listen to it. I'm not crazy. You hear me talking about polarities of energy. Because when we have a big, powerful burst of energy here, it's an immense, it's like an explosion, okay? And it has to go somewhere. So the goal is to channel it, right? To control how it expresses. And we want to make it go to the opposite side of its energy, right? We want to use it in that way. And it's not so much as saying we're going to make it. It's just that its easiest route of expression will be this way, because this is where it's flowing to anyway. And so understanding the Scorpio, understanding to do something altruistic for another, right? To help somebody with something that they value, someone that you're bonded to, someone that you are energetically bonded to, can be emotionally healing. And that's what that Scorpio energy is, healing something, deep emotional wounds, and a healing coming about by some sort of a beautiful gesture on your part. So the new moon in Scorpio, right? November 14th, new moon in Scorpio, it's at 23 degrees. Again, your 8th house. Again, your 8th house. We're talking Scorpio energy. So that 8th house is, I'm talking about the same things. Deeply bonded relationships. Usually past life, can be bonded through shared emotional experiences, okay? This is people that I can be blood related to, but it can be people that I've met in my lifetime, and we just have an energetic bond. And these can be from other lifetimes. These can be from family lineage, our heritage. We have folks that are from the old country. It can be all of that. But understanding there's a healing, there's an opportunity to heal some deep wounds, because that is Scorpio energy. It's stuff below the surface, stuff that's hidden. And the really powerful stuff that's very hard to heal, it's hidden and it's deep. But this new moon gives the opportunity to share something there's an old wound, right? There's an old wound. You know what it is. I can't tell you what it is. I don't have your chart in front of me, but there's some sort of an old wound. And this new moon gives you the opportunity to heal it, to set the intention, to write things down, to say a prayer, maybe write something down and send a letter. That's up to you to figure out how you want to use this energy. But keep in mind, I do ceremonies. I do full moon and new moon ceremonies every month, every single month. Since September, I've been doing weekly ceremonies. So if there's ever a prayer, if there's ever a special need, whether it's to bring something into your life or to help you to release something, you let me know, comment your stuff below, and I'll help you out. This is part of being part of the Allastrology family. There's no fee. It's not a gimmick. There's not a cost. You don't have to do anything. This is just me doing what I'm supposed to do. This is just me extending this service to you. Your November is there's an eclipse this month. And it happens at the very end of November. It's November 30th. It's an eclipse in Gemini energy, okay? Gemini. And I talked about Gemini energy already for you in the beginning of this video. It happens in your 9th house. It's Gemini energy. It's in your 9th house of learning, right? There's an eclipse. Now, what you want to do in your own chart is see if you have something at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 degrees of Gemini. All right. Also see if you have something at the opposite end of that, which would be something in Sagittarius energy at 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10. Because the eclipse point, it happens at 8 degrees and 38 minutes in Gemini. All right. So typically for an eclipse, you want to know if it's something that happens right on it or at the opposing side of it. And this eclipse is a North Node lunar eclipse. The North Node in Gemini, right? It's where we're headed. Has to do with thinking. Has to do with thinking. But this is a full moon. So we are releasing something. There could be a hidden judgment. There's a hidden thinking. There's something about the way we thought about teaching, about communicating, about relating, about long distance learning, long distance teaching, about traveling. There's a belief, there's something, because it's in that 9th house. It's a philosophy on life. It's about my future. My thoughts about my future, what I thought I was going to be doing for my future, there's an eclipse here. And if you have something at that point, it's going to be a big deal. Out of everything I've just talked about, let's bring it all together now. It's time to bring it and weave it all together. It comes down to, it is time to reevaluate who you are, to see the good in you. I don't care about that Virgo crap that sits there and has to point a finger at somebody, all right? Right? The Virgo tendencies of, but you're not enough. You're this and you're that, right? Virgos can be very critical, very nitpicky. We all have this somewhere in our chart, right? We all have it somewhere. I do. That person does. You do. We all have Virgo energy. And I'm mentioning this because Virgo has a tendency to be very critical. And if you talk to any Virgo, they have a tendency to be very self-critical. And at this time, we are recognizing the self-critical degrees of our being. And we're saying enough. Enough is enough. It's one thing to say something, to say, well, this could be better. But there's got to be a time when we say, hey, slow down. Now that's being mean. Now that's unnecessary, right? I have borders and boundaries because I see the value in me now. I love me and I understand that I have value. I understand now I am worthy and I'm cherishing myself by saying, stop, that's enough, no more. I asked for your opinion, and when I need it, I'll ask for it again. You gave me your 2 cents, and that's all I needed was your 2 cents. I don't need $1 worth. I got your 2 cents, and that's all I asked for. And at this point, when you do that, you are showing the heart that's inside of you. You are showing your soul. You are showing an inner degree of your being. There's a little one in you, a really, really, really small little one inside of you that was very prominent at one time in your life when you were very young. It got hurt and it went and hid and it's never come out. It never came out because every time it tried to take it would peek its toe out, that critical voice would come in and be like, oh, it's you again? And it would just shrink right back and go back behind the couch or go and hide under the table or go hide under the bed or put the pillow over its head. That's over. It's done. It is finished. No more. It's okay for the little one to come out because now there's a part of your being that says, I'm taking care of you. I understand you're sensitive. I understand you're fragile, but I am here now. I am the adult in you who is now grown up and who will now stand up to that critical voice inside of me. And I will stand up for you. I will protect you. I will never let that critical voice harm you ever again. I will fight it and I would tell it to back down and it will obey me. Because I didn't know until now that it does obey me. It was the fact that I never spoke up, I never stood up to it, that it just kept going on and on and on and on and on and being all crazy, crazy, crazy and saying all sorts of hurtful things. But now I realize I have the power. And now that I know I have the power and I have the voice and the ability to tell it to sit down, that it will sit down and it will listen to me because I am the one that commands it. But I didn't know that before. And I do now. And so this new moon, this eclipse in that 9th house is an elevation, is a graduation in the Gemini's way of thinking, of relating, of communicating, but not just with others, but with self, because it finally honed in on the duality of itself. And it could see the other. It could see the other half for the first time more clearly than ever before. And what's the sign of Gemini? It's the twins. It's those two pillars, right? But there was a wall between the two pillars and they couldn't see each other. But now they see each other very clearly. And so there's an elevation in the thinking, and it's going to open up. And because you're able to do this, you will allow the higher frequencies to come in. You will hear the voice of the source, the voice of God, the voice of Allah, the voice of Yahweh, the voice of the universe. You will have the capability to hear that once you do this, because it is the acceptance. It is the acceptance of seeing that other part of yourself that now knows it does command the little voice, the little irritating, mean voice. Now it knows that it is you that's the commander of it. It is you that can control it. And by taking that control and recognizing this other part of you who is fragile, who sometimes seemed weak, but who has so much value, you stand stronger and taller, and you see that in others, and you accept it in others. And you develop an opening, because all of that goes away, and it brings the wall of division down, and there's an acceptance that occurs between the two pillars. And it is the coming together. It is the left side and the right side of the brain, right? Right? It is the way of the thinking and the communicating, the rationale, the logic, but then it's the other side that hears, the clear hearing, the imagination, right? It's the nurturing, it's the empathy, it's the intuition coming through, working and becoming one. And it is that moment. It is that moment of togetherness, is that union that brings in the higher octave and the higher energies and the higher frequencies. This is your time. You can do this. The universe is working with you. And its words are coming through out of this mouth to your ears, to your mind, to your heart, to your soul. Rise with it. Fly with it. Elevate.